Hey, what's up, everybody? Today we're looking at Extinctions: How Life Survives, Adapts, and Evolves by Michael J. Benton. Michael J. Benton is a British paleontologist and author who mostly writes about dinosaurs. Extinctions is the third book I've read by this author, and I really enjoyed all three of them. This one might be my favorite of the three, but this author has consistently left good impressions on me. I've also watched some of his interviews online, and they're really great too. The other two books I've read by this author are Dinosaurs Rediscovered and When Life Nearly Died, which is about the greatest mass extinction event in history, the Permian extinction of 250 million years ago. And I'll link the reviews to those books in the description. This book, by the way, was published by Thames and Hudson, just like his other books I read, and like several of the other paleontology related books I've reviewed on this channel. And I have to say, just like with Benton himself, I've been consistently impressed with these Thames and Hudson paleontology books. This one, Extinctions, is something that I've been looking for a while. I'd say I wish I got a hold of this book earlier, but it's brand new. It's not even out in paperback yet. So it's as up to date as you can get, which can be an issue with books in this field. But right off the bat, I love this book. Benton has done it again. So, what's the book like? From what we can tell from the fossil record, there seems to have been five mass extinction events on Earth, as well as a number of smaller scale extinction events. This book lays out the history of life on Earth chronologically with a focus on the five recognized mass extinction events. Pretty straightforward. This makes this such a great book for someone who's just starting to dabble in paleontology and maybe doesn't know all that much about it like me. I recently reviewed a book called A Very Short History of Life on Earth by Henry G. And this book was actually kind of reminiscent of that. Only this book is a longer production and focuses on dying events rather than mostly life. But one of the main takeaways from this book is to look at how each of these extinction events completely reshaped the possibilities and opened up new opportunities for new life in the subsequent time periods. And that's where the real value in this book can be found. This book will give you such a richer perspective of our place, not only here on Earth, but now on Earth. It can almost be an overwhelming thing to think about. Life is rolling along and evolving. Everyone is doing their thing and filling their niches, and then something or things happen, and a huge chunk of the players are taken out. We now see all these new ecological niches opening up, and evolution wastes no time in getting them filled. And oftentimes, the environmental changes brought about guarantee that these niches are taken up in new ways that never could have existed until this point in time. It's like the evolution of evolution itself. And when we're thinking about this stuff, you have to wonder, what about another million years into the future? Or maybe 10 million years into the future? And that's another big point of value with this book. When we consider looking that far ahead and appreciate the fact that we may not still be around, it really puts into perspective the fact that we don't own this planet. As we look around at our Earth, all this is not here just for us. We're simply lucky enough to be part of this grand exhibition. Life was evolving bizarre and wondrous things well before we were here, and it'll be that way long after we're gone. Time will continue working with the environment, writing brand new histories in the saga of life on Earth. My favorite example of changes over time from this book, we can look back at something like the Antarctic Circumpolar Current. 25 million years ago, the southern tip of South America was still attached to Antarctica, and when they finally separated, this allowed the ocean currents to flow through and combine with other factors that were already in play, contributing to the cooling of the rest of the planet, bringing entirely new scenarios and environmental factors, which means new kinds of life. This led to the retreating of forests and the spread of grasslands on Earth. And this is just about the time a humble primate would have been leaving the trees and going on to evolve into modern day Homo sapiens. We could even look all the way back to the Cretaceous when we have insects and angiosperms co evolving together. Then, after the end Cretaceous asteroid extinction event, mammals are the ones given the chance to fill that niche, and which is co evolving with the angiosperms or flowering plants, which would become a very important of our diet. And I just bring that up so that we can appreciate how all these events happening millions of years apart have consequences that tie together down the road. The Earth, the climate, and the continents have always been in constant flux, and it isn't stopping anytime soon. This has been a huge driving factor in how life plays out on Earth, and I find it fascinating to consider the future continental configurations and all the new life and changes that might bring. And it's a shame that we'll miss that. Even now, we can see East Africa beginning to break away at the Rift Valley, but these processes take millions of years, and we only get to see such a tiny fraction of what has played out on Earth so far. We only live for about 100 years, so it's really easy for us to conceptualize everything from that perspective. But the Earth is so much older than that, and life has been around for billions of years and is always changing, even if it did take a while to start becoming more complex. But just look at life today, and looking back in history at some of the creatures that lived here before us, it must have been like another planet. Looking at some of the extinct megafauna, we have things like mammoths, cave bears, giant sloths, and these were just relatively recent animals, but these things actually existed, not to mention dinosaurs. But I really think it's worth taking a minute to just picture these things walking around in their natural habitat and remember that they were really here. They actually existed. Not only that, but they were here before us and they were here longer than us. I could talk about the contents of this book all day, but as far as the way the book is written, it's broken into 6 parts, 15 chapters in total, and each chapter is broken into segments, which I really love. I notice that when books are written like this, I tend to read through more pages at a time. I tell myself that since it's broken into such small chunks, I can stop at any of these places, but it's always so easy to just keep on going another segment. And this book makes you want to do that. And being a chronology, it's very easy to follow and know where you are or when you are. This book is pretty science heavy. It also contains a lot of descriptions. So, this is opposed to something like The Rise and Fall of the Dinosaurs, which is designed to appeal to a wider audience. Extinctions is a little more on the academic side, but it's still something that any reader can appreciate. The focus is on each of these 5 mass extinctions, which are the end Ordovician, 444 million years ago, the end Devonian, 360 million years ago, the end Permian, 250 million years ago, which was the worst one of all, the end Triassic, 200 million years ago, and the end Cretaceous, which killed off the dinosaurs 66 million years ago. Benton spends a lot of time on what factors play into each of these mass extinction events and all the science behind all of that and how we discovered these things. And again, a focus on how each of these events created changes for new life to evolve following these extinction events. And part of what makes this book so fascinating is learning about how some of these things came about for the very first time on Earth, like the first predators, the birth of endothermy or warm bloodedness, the first land living plants or land living animals, the first angiosperms or the first grasslands, the first mammals or the first humans. And because the book runs chronologically, and because humans are such a recent evolutionary development, the book ends on the topic of humans, our evolution, and our role in extinctions in history and in the future. There's just so much to learn in this book, and if you're like me, you'll be fascinated through every page of it. There are 2 sections of really nice color plates spaced throughout the book, as well as plenty of black and white pictures and drawings. I would have liked to see more pictures of some of the animals Benton was describing. I did have to stop and Google many times while I was reading, which really slowed me down, but also that's a sign of interesting material. This book is absolutely full of that. Okay, that's it for this one, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed the video. I'm getting to a point now where I've read quite a few of these paleontology slash Earth history books, and this is one of my favorite authors in this area. If you like anything you heard in this video, if you're interested, but you like some of the more science-oriented explanations, I definitely recommend this book. Check out Extinctions by Michael J. Benton.